This is the Hyundai Ioniq 6, Hyundai's second dedicated electric vehicle. This is the very base model, the SE rear-wheel drive, which costs about $42,500. Truly the only optional extra on this particular model are carpeted floor mats. But it does have basically all of the creature comforts and high tech you would expect from a $42,500 vehicle. This starting price is slightly higher than the starting price of the Hyundai Ioniq 5, which starts at about $41,800. But for that less than $1,000 difference, this car has over 140 more miles of all-electric driving and 57 more horsepower. So is the Ioniq 6 the electric Hyundai to go for? For EV performance alone, this Ioniq 6 definitely wins. This base SE rear-wheel drive has 361 miles of all-electric driving, which is a figure that I have definitely been able to achieve in mostly city driving, and is a very impressive figure, mostly thanks to this car's very aerodynamic profile. The longest range Ioniq 5, also the SE rear-wheel drive, has 303 miles of range, which is far short of the Ioniq 6's figure. But as you move up the trim levels, the delta between Ioniq 6's range and Ioniq 5's range does decrease. This top-of-the-line limited all-wheel drive Ioniq 6 has 270 miles of range, while the top-of-the-line limited all-wheel drive Ioniq 5 has 260 miles of range, only 10 miles apart, not really noticeable in day-to-day driving. So I would argue it is this base Ioniq 6 rear-wheel drive that is the one to get, and as I'll show you, it is not so base. This is $3,000 cheaper than the comparable Ioniq 5 SE all-wheel drive, and while there is a standard range Ioniq 5 that is cheaper than this vehicle, again less than $1,000, it has significantly less range and only 168 horsepower. This bad boy makes 225. Now, the Ioniq 5 being a hatchback crossover thing does mean it has a more practical interior, but I at 6'2", sitting behind the passenger seat, which is pushed back further than my ideal driving position, do have plenty of knee room and plenty of foot room in this Ioniq 6. Now, when I sit upright, my head does hit the ceiling because of the sloping roofline that gives this car so much range, but if I slouch down a little bit, I truly can fit, and I could sit back here for a few hours, no problem. There's also a center armrest that folds down to reveal cup holders, dual USB-C charging outlets, air vents, map pockets. Now, storage behind the second row is really where the Ioniq 6 is going to lose out to the Ioniq 5. When you press this button for the automatic trunk, which is standard, that's a pretty cool feature, you are greeted with 11.2 cubic feet of storage, which is a far cry from the Ioniq 5's 27.2 cubic feet of storage behind the second row. However, these second row of seats in the Ioniq 6 do fold down when you pull on these levers and then walk around. One moment. 1 and 2. And there's a pretty decent sized pass-through, so I think you could fit a bike back here if you took the front tire off, which is really handy, but it's definitely not as practical as the Ioniq 5. And the Ioniq 6 doesn't make up for any lost cargo space with a big frunk. You could fit like a laptop up here, but not really anything else. Driving the Hyundai Ioniq 6, I am very impressed with how this car drives. The first thing that really stands out to you is just how comfortable and quiet it is in this car. This is a, $42,000 car, and it's a Hyundai, so I wasn't expecting anything outlandish in terms of comfort and how quiet this car is, but they are luxury car levels in both categories. I am so impressed. This ride is so soft. It really does float down the road. You don't get any harsh bumps into the cabin. You feel some things in the road, but it's really more a suggestion of how rough the road is than truly, honestly feeling those bumps in the cabin. I think that is really aided by these 18-inch wheels on this base Ioniq 6. I think you can get up to like 21s on higher trim levels, and so that those models probably wouldn't have as good of ride, and as not stylish as these rims are, they do really lead to a great ride. And then it is also whisper quiet in here. I am so impressed. You drive highway speeds going 70, 80 miles an hour, and it is so hushed in this cabin. You can't hear any cars going by next to you. You really don't hear any wind noise. It is just so impressively quiet. This car feels so well engineered while driving it, both in terms of suspension and chassis tuning, as well as how quiet it is. I am just so impressed by those two elements of this car. Now, I'm on a twisty, winding road right now, and this isn't necessarily where the Ioniq 6 feels at home. On the straightaways, you can really tell that this is the base rear-wheel drive Ioniq 6 in terms of power, 225 horsepower. While planning to get this car up to speed isn't exhilarating in any way. I'm flooring it right now, and it's accelerating, but not too quickly. I think 320 horsepower that you get on the dual motor all-wheel drive Ioniq 6s would definitely do well to kind of increase exhilaration of this vehicle. But this rear-wheel drive's efficiency means that this has up to 361 miles of range, which is a truly impressive figure, and a figure I genuinely have been seeing. I drove this car on the interstate from where I live to this canyon that I'm driving right now, and we lost 30 miles of range, and we went 30 miles going highway speed. So that range is actually pretty accurate. It is 70 degrees out today, which is like ideal temperature for an EV, and I had the temperature set to 70, so there wasn't like too much strain from the air conditioning, but I'm still really impressed by this car's range, comfort, and quiet. Again, when you do go around a corner with speed, you definitely do lean, and you do notice that this isn't a very athletic vehicle, but nor was it tuned to be. This is kind of an economy car, except obviously it is a very impressive vehicle, and it doesn't have an economy car price at $42,000. It's pretty expensive, but it is not a performance vehicle, and you really do notice that in the corners and when you are accelerating in a straightaway pretty fast, because it isn't very fast. But it's not too uncomposed in the corners. You can corner with speed. It does help that obviously all of the weight of this car is really down low because of the battery, that 77 kilowatt hour battery pack that is down there. So you can whip it around, but the car will lean, and these seats also are not very supportive in a dynamic sense, so you are kind of sliding about in them. I would be really interested to see an N version of this car. Hyundai makes, or Kia makes performance versions of the EV6, which is based on this same platform as the Ioniq 5 and Ioniq 6. The Kia EV6 GT has something like 580 horsepower, which is absolutely insane. There is going to be a Hyundai Ioniq N, Ioniq 5N, which is a performance version of the Hyundai Ioniq 5. I would love to see an Ioniq 6N. I really love the way this car looks. I think it's fun, and a performance version of this car would be really impressive. Other things in this cabin, I love the dual 12.3 inch screens. They feel very high tech and futuristic. However, I don't really like the design you get in the instrument cluster 12.3 inch screen. I just don't like the coloring. When you are in eco or normal mode, the speedometer is this bright blue on a white background, and it just kind of feels childish is the wrong word, but not like serious. It doesn't feel like a serious instrument cluster. It's better at night when it switches to black background with blue text, but still I'm not a huge fan. Switching it over to sport mode does help. Your speedometer then turns red, but I still don't love the white background of the Ioniq 6's infotainment system. You get it in the infotainment and instrument cluster. I just wish that it had a little more of a traditional gauge cluster. I don't feel like I really need this futuristic high-tech looking gauge cluster, even though it is an electric car. I think that would make this car feel a little more grown up. It makes it feel a little unprofessional in a way. Another thing I noticed, and I forgot to mention in my Hyundai Kona video because I noticed it there, is that the automatic headlights on modern Hyundais seem to be very eager to turn on. If I am passing the shadow of a hill, or even passing the shadow of a semi-truck, my headlights will turn on. I wish they were a little less sensitive. It's kind of annoying. Automatic headlights are a great feature, obviously, and I get that it's better to err on the side of caution with having the lights on too much, but this is just overcautious. And especially when I was driving on the interstate in the Kona, I was passing semis, and their shadows I was going behind their shadows, and every time I would pass a semi, my headlights would turn on, and then it'd be daylight again and they would turn off, and then I'd pass the semi and the headlights would turn on. So Hyundai, if you're watching this, please make your headlights a little less sensitive. I'm also shocked by all of the features that come standard on this base Ioniq 6. It's a truly impressive vehicle. The only option this particular model has is carpeted floor mats. So we are at about that $42,500 base price for this car, and you get all of Hyundai's adaptive cruise control lane keep assist technology. You get these dual 12.3-inch touchscreens, or one's a touchscreen, one is just a screen. You have heated seats up front. These are cloth seats, but they're still super comfortable. They really do help add to the comfort of the suspension. Just really comfortable. It's automatic for the driver. We have dual zone automatic climate control, which is very nice. The speakers aren't great, but they're not bad either. There's tons of space in the back. You have an automatic trunk, which I think is a really nice feature. And it's really fun checking out this base model because there isn't anything lower than this. There really isn't a bare bones Ioniq 6 on offer, and I really like that Hyundai did it like this. You are paying the premium because it is an electric vehicle, and especially this electric vehicle, this is one of the longest range EVs currently on the market, and so they weren't just going to offer you the technology without all the features. I like that they threw the features in, and I honestly would recommend, if you live in a climate where you can live with all-wheel drive, definitely go for the rear wheel drive one. And I think this base SE really offers everything you need. The worst part about it, in my opinion, are that these wheels are pretty ugly. Other than that, it drives, it rides, and it has all of the features that you would need. So that's the Hyundai Ioniq 6. Well, $42,500 is a very high starting price for a Hyundai. This is an incredible car, and with its amazing ride, ability to have some fun, and incredible suite of standard features, the Ioniq 6 is not just a great EV, it's a great car. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, share, and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.